Welcome back. We're talking with Governor Charlie Baker. And Governor, do you know when you've got the opportunity to either renew appointments to the State Gaming Commission or replace those commissioners with someone new?
I think the answer is mostly. Yeah.
Well, in light of the Steve Wynn debacle that has now clouded the future of the Everett Casino, and in light of the failure of that commission to get more than the one slot parlor in Plainville up and running in 7 years since the law passed, are you satisfied with the performance of that commission?
Well, I certainly think I'm very excited about the MGM facility. I think I've spent a lot of time in Springfield, so as a lieutenant governor, so have other members of our team. We think that one has tremendous potential to be a terrific economic asset to a part of the Commonwealth that would really benefit from it.
Even with Connecticut moving to build right over the border?
That one's all tied up in a whole variety of discussions and conversations, and I think there's some actually legal challenges to that one in Connecticut as well. I think the Gaming Commission at this point, whether you like the decision they made with respect to Wynn, and whether in the rearview mirror that was a good decision or a bad one, they really need to do their homework, and I believe they are, on what people knew and when they knew it and how they're going to address this. I do appreciate the fact that Wynn stepped down as chairman. He sold all his stock in the company. Mr. Maddox, who's the guy who runs the Massachusetts project, said they were going to change the name of the casino. But I think it's pretty important for the commission to get the bottom of who knew what when and what that means with respect to the suitability issue, which is in the statute, which I think is what you're referencing.
Well, but in the meantime, there's a broader issue, actually. Just a couple of years ago, they had a developer ready to pump tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions, into Brockton, a community that desperately needs investment and jobs. And they passed on it. For reasons that struck me at the time as dubious. Is this commission doing a good job or not?
So I don't know all the details on the one you're speaking to, but I do think the tribe issue was tied up in why they didn't make the decision with respect to Brockton. And for your viewers, the tribe issue is the Wampanoags and whether or not they have preferential rights.
Still tied up in endless legal wrangling.
Most of which is at the federal level.
But they had the power to go ahead. They chose not to.
They chose not to, but it wasn't that they chose not to for no reason. They chose not to because they were concerned about having 4 casinos in Massachusetts, not 3, and 2 that would have been pretty close to each other in southeastern Mass. Look, I thought the Brockton proposal was a very strong proposal, and I also thought the Wampanoag proposal, which would have been in Taunton, was also a, quote, strong proposal. But the Taunton one with respect to the Wampanoags really does need to get worked out before I think they can go ahead with the third decision.
Still looking for an answer. Has this commission been competent?
I think it depends. First of all, I think the answer to that one's going to play out over time. Clearly, with respect to the Wynn issue, it's a tough question to answer, John, because I don't know how much, I don't know anything about what was, this all happened before I took office. I have no idea how much of what the commission had available to it at a reasonable standard with respect to what was going on with the Wynn circumstance would have been available to them or not. I don't know. I mean, I really don't. And I
don't hear a big vote of confidence there.
I don't think I can effectively answer that question because I was actually working in the private sector and I think maybe running for governor when virtually all of those issues were decided and where that whole process played out.
Well, Governor, I wish we had more time. This is so much fun. But we look forward to having you back here and look forward to having you come back to debate your opponent in the fall. That'll be fun, won't it?
We'll look forward to having a chance to come back, John.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Governor Charlie Baker. That's it for us. Now it's back over to my colleagues for more WBZ News.